This will have the ability, if you want to leave your email, to have you get email post program, so you get the follow-up information, and we can add you to the mailing list so you get information about our other classes. If you haven't had the opportunity to grab the goodies that's here for y'all, and there's food, so help yourselves if you haven't gotten something to eat yet. And welcome everyone that is joining us on Zoom. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to get started here. Just give me 1 second. All right, so welcome everyone. Today we are going to be doing one of the 10 dimensions of 8 dimensions of wellness. There's 10 lessons, is why I keep saying 10. And this lesson is going to focus on the social dimension of wellness. If you haven't been here before, I encourage you to go online. Our website has the other dimensions, the recordings of the shows, if you want to check them out. And also I do present it at other locations from time to time and virtually. So you're welcome to check those out if you're interested in some of the other presentations on the 8 dimensions of wellness. My name is Chris Zellers, and I'm from Rutgers Cooperative Extension here in Cape May County, New Jersey. I'm an assistant professor and FCHS educator. And my job is great. I get to go around and teach to the community here in Cape May County. So I do not drive all the way up north. I get to be right here where I live, and I get to enjoy working here. To give you a little bit of background about the cooperative extension system, before we get started, if you're not familiar with it, it is a partnership between the County Board of Chosen Commissioners, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, and the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture, or NIFA. And Rutgers Cooperative Extension currently has faculty and/or staff in all of the counties across the state of New Jersey. We have 3 departments. As I mentioned, my department is FCHS, which stands for Family and Community Health Sciences. We also have the Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources in Cooperative Extension at Rutgers, as well as 4-H Youth Development. And like I said, we're housed right in Cape May Courthouse, the back side of the zoo, front side of ACCC in Cape May Courthouse. My department, FCHS, our mission is to provide outreach in New Jersey and beyond on topics that are related to nutrition, chronic disease prevention, food safety, and overall wellness. And we do, like I said, we have websites. There's some flyers, brochures for upcoming classes if you're interested in attending one of those. We offer a lot of different things right here in Cape May County. We also have a webinar series called Wellness Wednesdays with FCHS, and they offer statewide information from all of my colleagues across the state. So you can tune into that on Wednesdays if you're interested in that. We do all the Wednesdays except for if there's a holiday. We usually skip that week because we don't get good attendance. So just another program that we have out there if you're interested in getting more information. And of course, Rutgers is an affirmative action equal opportunity employer. And as I mentioned earlier, this dimension of wellness is called social wellness. I have worked with my colleague, Jennifer Shakaitis, to create this curriculum that I'm sharing out around the community in New Jersey as well, and she is too. And we're currently having it peer reviewed to try to get it to share nationally with folks so that other educators and people can use it across the nation. It's our hope that people will be able to take it and share out the information. And I really developed it because when I started in this department, I said, wellness, what's wellness? So we'll talk a little bit more about what wellness is as we move on here. Today, we have 4 objectives for the class. We're going to identify the dimensions of wellness. We're going to define overall wellness. We're going to understand how the 8 dimensions of wellness interact with one another to create positive balance. You'll hear that a lot, positive balance. And we're going to discover ways to achieve, maintain, and improve wellness for ourselves. And hopefully, I see there's a few new faces. I don't know about Zoom, but I know here in person, there's a few new faces. So I'll go over things so you have a better concept in case you haven't been here for the other dimensions. This is a very large QR code on the screen there right now. Brooke is going to release the poll for the folks on Zoom. The folks on Zoom can also do that. And I have to get rid of that. Hold on 1 second. The folks on Zoom can also do this survey. This survey is part of my teaching for the university. I have to remember when you're in college and the professors would ask you to fill out those forms. Now they're online. This is that. So I have to have that filled out. If you could take your phones out and scan it. If you don't want to do that now, I have it at the end of the presentation, and I'll also send it out via email if you leave me your email. And if you leave your email address on the survey, you are entered to win a quarterly prize. So just a little incentive there to try to get some of those filled out. Not my favorite part of the job. Okay. There we go. All right. So currently the wellness industry is a $4 trillion business, much like the diet industry. People have latched onto this idea of wellness and everybody wants to be well. I just noticed the other day, I always give examples of what I've heard, like car ads for wellness. Now it's Walmart. So a lot of advertising is being done around with retailers. So they're using that catchphrase of wellness. And people really have latched on to this idea. They want to be well. I guess it's similar to maybe the fountain of youth. But what's it mean? And like I said, when I started in this department, I wanted to know, I was charged with teaching it. And I thought, well, what are people's definitions of wellness? So think to yourself for a minute here, what you think your definition of wellness is, and we'll see if it matches up with social wellness or with the other dimensions of wellness. A lot of times what you see in a definition of wellness, you'll see an advertisement for a spa. You might see the stones aligning because of the balance that we'll talk about. Maybe you'll see somebody meditating. I know when I write these presentations, they have stock images. So if I go in and write wellness, these are the types of images that I get. Sometimes you'll see an ad for an essential oil or something like that, and that will correlate with wellness. But these are, these things can all contribute to our overall wellness, but they don't necessarily define wellness or tell us what wellness is. They might help us in trying to achieve it, but I always like to say when I teach this class, you don't have to purchase anything to be well. It's in your control. So you're the driver of the wellness car, and you can do what you need to do to help balance that out. So is it really an undefinable term? No, it turns out that there is a concept that's steeped in research, and the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, created a definition for wellness, and the definition includes a holistic approach, meaning it's not based upon one thing, but rather a lot of different ideas that function around several concepts that create a balance. So as we talk about the dimensions of wellness, you'll see here, we have them all interlocking, those Venn diagram type things where they're all interrelated. And, because it's used so much, it's often attributed to something that's good. So if you've spent some money on wellness, as I mentioned, it's likely that you were trying to achieve something. And again, you don't really need to pay any money for that. Wellness has been defined by SAMHSA. SAMHSA envisions it as not the absence of disease, illness, and stress, but as the presence of positive purpose in life, satisfying work and play, joyful relationships. We're going to talk a lot about that today. A healthy body and living environment, and happiness. So when I ask the question, a lot of times if I'm teaching this class just on Zoom, or if I'm teaching the class maybe to a group that's not also on Zoom, and it's easier for me to get responses, I'll ask people right off the bat when they start the classes, what is it to you? A lot of times people will say being physically well, being emotionally well. But a lot of times they're leaving out these other dimensions that you can see here on the screen that we're going to talk a little bit more about as we move on. I have here listed out the short definitions that SAMHSA provides for all 8 dimensions. You can see there's emotional, environmental, financial, intellectual, occupational, physical, social, and spiritual. Social ends up down at the bottom, but that doesn't mean it's any less important than the other ones. As you saw from the last picture, they were all interrelated, all interconnected. This is just in alphabetical order. So that's the only reason that it's listed out that way. And you can see here that social is developing a sense of connection and belonging and having a good support system. And again, that speaks to that healthy relationship. As we go through here I just want to point out a couple of different things. You're going to see the word positive, the word good, pleasant, positive, I said positive already, personal satisfaction, enrichment. So these words occur all the time throughout the 8 dimensions of wellness and how we talk about them, because we want to remember in that original definition, we said that we want to have positive relationships and positive things. It's not the absence of something, but rather the presence of positiveness. So an important part of well-being is the balance of the 8 dimensions of wellness. And because we all have individual needs, everybody watching and everybody in the audience has individual needs. We have individual preferences and capabilities. What I consider balance for myself is going to look very different than probably another person in the audience. So people may feel very balanced in their social wellness. You know, you're out doing things and you're very socially balanced, but that might look a little different for every person that's in the room. And being balanced in one area can really have a ripple effect and help us to be balanced in the other areas. One thing that I always try to do, especially since I've started teaching these lessons, it's actually a really good thing for me because it helps me remind me of the things I'm supposed to be doing, not just preaching, but also practicing. It is to go back and look, check in from time to time and rebalance myself. So if I say all of a sudden, oh, you know, I'm just not feeling quite right, what is it? You know, look at the 8 dimensions and try to figure out what that is. If you're not socially doing really well socially, that could turn your emotional wellness off kilter. So we want to make sure that we're balancing all 8 dimensions and that we're checking in from time to time to see where we need to be engaged more or taking care of that certain area. So for those of you that were here last time, we did intellectual wellness. Yep. So we did intellectual wellness. And when we did that at the end, and we'll do it again at the end of this presentation, we set goals. And so I'm just wondering if it's a good time maybe for you to check in and say, okay, I set goals in my intellectual wellness and how am I doing with those? So even if you're not doing it another time, take a second now to just think about the goals you might have set last time, and see if you've actually checked in on those intellectual wellness. If you came back again, you probably did check at least one box, right? So that's a good thing. But if you weren't here last time, then think about how well you're feeling socially right now, or if you feel like you met your goal, think about you know, what your social balance feels like right now for social wellness, and keep thinking about that as we go through and discuss more of the social dimension of wellness. All right, so again, with the interlocking 8 dimensions, SAMHSA says that the social dimension includes having healthy relationships with friends, family, and the community. So, you know, no Hatfield and McCoy with the neighbor. You want to have a good relationship with everyone in your surroundings. Having an interest in the concerns for the needs of others and humankind. So that's kind of that thing where I know I was raised this way. My mother always kind of gave me the impression that you don't want to do anything to somebody else that you don't want them to do to you, right? So you want to be respectful of others and humankind. This includes knowing our strengths. So it's important to know what we're good at, as well as what we want to do better. And also living and working on our own while also giving back to the community. So we want to do things for ourselves, but also the community at large, because that helps the social dimension overall. It gives you a sense of completion, a sense of feeling good. And like I said before, each one of these social dimensions, or each one of the dimensions complements another dimension, and that's important. If it's unbalanced, social wellness, again, it could mess up the other areas of wellness. All right, so you're going to hear me say this several times. These people look like they're having a lot of fun. Look like they'd be fun to hang out with, right? You're going to hear me say this as we go through the 8 dimensions, and all of it. I say it every time, but you want to try to take small steps with what you're doing. You don't want to try to bite off more than you can chew, so to speak. So you want to be able to not feel overwhelmed, set small goals. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of information about social wellness. Don't try to go out and do all of it at once. Pick something small, do it for you as an individual, not for what other people want, and then start to achieve those social wellness goals as you move along by doing a little bit at a time. And that'll help you feel satisfied in the area of social wellness. All right. So you might be wondering why I've chosen to speak about or focus the presentation on social wellness. Well, one, it's one of the social dimensions of wellness, but the other reason is when we have good social wellness, it promotes other wellness promoting behaviors. So for instance, we know, everybody knows this, it was like a great evidence-based study. 2020 happened and everything shut down and everybody's socialization changed. So social isolation can have a really negative impact on our health, our physical health, our emotional health, our overall health. So learning about the social dimension of wellness can really help us to understand why we're feeling certain ways. There's research out now that social isolation is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So that's, go ahead. I don't know. I'll have to pull the research article back out to find that out for you. But that's what they're saying is it's just like the sitting, for a while they were saying sitting is like the new smoking. So I'll have to go back and look at that article for you and I'll find out for you and I'll put it in the email coming back at you later on. It also can shorten the lifespan by up to 15 years. So I know as an example, when I was, and I'm sure people probably can relate, when COVID happened and we shut down, it was like, okay, at first I was like, all right, this is kind of cool. I get a little bit of chill time, right? And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, this is not so cool. And I think that if you really look back to that and think about the way you change things positively, I mean, I think there was positive things that came out of that, right? We have a lot of people watching on Zoom now that normally wouldn't happen before COVID. But I think that if you really look back on it, and as you're searching for your social wellness goals, think about how things changed and how you were able to modify to reach out, because that might happen, not COVID necessarily, but you might be in a situation where you're a little bit more socially isolated. So what skills did you develop during that time period that would help you to get through another time? Maybe if you had an operation, you couldn't get out of the house or something like that. So just think about what happened previously to help you build on the next set of situations that might occur. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, I thought I skipped one. So sorry. There we go. Go ahead. I will, no, I don't have a sheet. We're working on developing materials to go along as handouts with this. And I actually was just thinking about it in the shower today. I'm like, we were just working on getting this out the door. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, we'll send out post presentation. We send out a recording of the video. So if you want to watch it again, and it'll have the slides up if you think you missed anything. But right now we haven't gotten to that development point with it. Yeah, still working on that. Yeah. So there's areas in all of the dimensions of wellness. There's areas of certain areas that break down within that area of wellness or that dimension of wellness. And for social wellness, that is community, new people, and social time. So we're going to look at each of those and we're going to break. I'm going to keep it old school. Here we go. It's not moving as fast as I am. There we go. We're going to break it down into those different areas and talk about them. All right. Community. Much like the other dimensions of wellness, establishing values that align with your personal values assist with your social relationships. So what does that look like? If you're, it's almost like back in, when you were maybe in school or younger and you started hanging out with some new friends and maybe they didn't have the same value system that your family had, and that changed or reshaped your value system. So it's really important, especially as adults, that we look at what our personal values are and allow them to assist with our social relationships. And that helps us to establish how we're involved in various social activities. And it also helps us to establish how we interact with others. And that helps to create that wellness balance. If we're in a situation frequently where we're not really upholding our values and beliefs, and we talked about this in spiritual wellness, that could really impact how our relationships look and what we're doing. So you want to make sure that you take a minute and look at a relationship and say, is this aligning with my values? Is this what I want for myself? Personal relationships are really important, and it also helps us to create a sense of community for socialization opportunities. So if you find you're struggling in certain areas, you might want to seek support from a support group, connect with friends, and try to get that support that you need. This really overlaps too with that emotional dimension of wellness. So if you have a good support group, doesn't have to be like a specific one. It might be could even be a book club, for instance, but some type of support group that you feel like you want to go to. And then, of course, that there's others if we're struggling in certain areas. But for emotional wellness, if we have good connections with family, good connections with friends, and a support group, that's going to help to support our emotional wellness dimension as well. Support groups offers extra help when we need it. If you're in mourning, for instance, it's good, or have a new diagnosis for your health, it's good to get support from others that have like-minded situations, because then you're going to feel supported, and it's going to help reduce that sense of isolation that we want to avoid. Starting or continuing relationships with friends. That really contributes to our social wellness too. Friends offer a shoulder to cry on, but they also offer you a buddy to enjoy the fun times with or the great times with. Try to make friends throughout your life spans where you live, work, and play, so that you have someone to turn to in those fun and maybe not so fun times. So I always think of when I get really good news. So just take a minute and think. You get really, really good news, like, I don't know, somebody's having a baby and you want to share that with somebody. Who would be the first person that you would text or call about that? Right? That's a person that you can depend on. And I have that group of friends. I always tell them, I'm like, you're my go-to people. I use you as an example in my my presentations, but it's important to have those friends over the lifespan, and they might change. You might have friends from grade school that are separate from the friends as an adult, but it's important to have those different friends over the lifespan. You also want to have those people that you can depend on, the folks that we're going to have great relationship with, because they're going to be just as happy for your good news as you are. But you also want those people in your lifetime, friends or family that you connect with, that are going to be there when things are really hard. And they're going to support you and give you a shoulder to lean on, and be there to put a loving arm around you when you need it. So, identify who those friends are, and have or continue those relationships, start new relationships if you need somebody in your life like that. Family, just like friends, they contribute to your social wellness. I know sometimes it's difficult in various situations, but try to connect with your family members for socialization opportunities. It'll probably help them and you as well. Find time to do things with family. Catch up and talk about good times with family. Throw it back. I use the example all the time during COVID when we were isolated. I would start a group chat with my cousins about like my grandparents and the silly things they used to do, and then it would just like snowball. And it was an opportunity. Like, we weren't talking, but at least we were socializing and interacting and enjoying the memory of good times. So that's a good way to interact with friends and family if they're long distance. And they can really counteract, if you're having a negative situation, that can help to balance it out and make you feel positive and supported, those positive relationships with others. So that was community. The next area is new people, and getting to know new people with similar interests are going to help you, be able to socialize more and expand your horizons. So you're all here today. You all have a common interest. My mother-in-law used to tell my husband when he was on the beach and he didn't have anybody to play with, go say hi, let's be friends. We always joke about that. So, you can turn to somebody next to you, say, hi, let's be friends. What are you doing? Have you come to other library things here at the Ocean City Library? It's a good way to socialize when you're out and about at these different things. And having common interests with people, that's really going to, help to foster positivity and balance in your life, because there's people with similar interests that what you have. It's important to Think about common interests that you have. Think about what you love to do and bring what brings you joy and happiness, and share that with others as you get to know people. Look for those places that have common interests, and find friends love doing the same things that you love doing to keep yourself interested and more social. It's also really important to be curious and open, to meet new people that have different backgrounds and interests. So it's good to have people that support your common interests, but new social relationships might spawn new interests for you. They can encourage you to expand your intellectual wellness because you're learning new things. So be respectful and curious, and open to meeting new people with new ideas, and that'll create new socialization opportunities for you. My mother, I've mentioned this to the group that's been here before. My mother moved into a 55 plus community, and she's been asked to play. I always said, why don't you go play games, Mom? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So now she's started going out in the community that she's in, and she's playing games and socializing, and it has made such a difference in her life. It's been a very positive reaction for her. She's playing, she says, I don't really have a lot of interest in that game, but she goes and she plays it every week anyway. So gives you that opportunity, and it helps you to learn new things. So you never know when you're going to learn something new that'll really take off and be a good career or interest or hobby. And then finally, here on the list, we have volunteer. So when we talked about occupational wellness, we had some folks in the audience ask me, well, I'm no longer working, I'm retired. How does occupational wellness look for me? So we talked about at that point volunteerism, and volunteerism can be a really good part of occupational wellness. Now, SAMHSA calls it occupational wellness because, just like I said, not everybody's in the workforce, so it might not be, work wellness or professional wellness. So occupational wellness can mean various different things like volunteering or a hobby, and it can fit in here in the socialization area, because if you go out and volunteer and do something that you love, you're going to meet other people that are doing what they love as well. So you're going to have that opportunity to do the other things that we mentioned on the side, people with similar interests, and also getting to know people with various backgrounds and interests. So new people are as a great way to expand your social wellness. And then social time. It's I hear all the time when I talk about wellness or I talk about physical activity, and even nutrition. When I do one of those lessons, people say, I don't have time for that. I don't have time. I don't have time to take care of myself. Well, it's really important, because the more time you spend to take care of yourself, the more time you have here. So it's good to set time aside to socialize with friends and family, just like you would to prep meals or to exercise or take care of yourself. Setting that quality time aside, reaching out and saying, hey, I'm having Sunday dinner, could you come over today? Or maybe let's go out for lunch, let's go grab coffee, let's set a time up to talk. It's really important to have that quality time with friends and family, because like I said before, if we're having positive relationships with those folks, then that's going to help nourish our social wellness. So try to set that quality time, and I emphasize the quality time. We do spend time with friends and family sometimes, and it's not always quality time, right? We're doing cleaning the kitchen does not count as quality time. It's great to get the kitchen clean, but it's important to set things, special times aside, so you do things that are meaningful and create those relationships and that support system that we discussed in the earlier slides. Try to find an activity that, both you and the other person like to get that time together for quality time too. So it's not just all about them or all about you, because that's going to foster that positive relationship and create the balance we need. I mentioned time is short, for people to set time aside to do these things. But doctors are actually prescribing for senior citizens now. When you go in, there was another article that I read about this, where the doctors are going, a senior will go in, they'll have conversations, and in the records chart, they'll trigger to ask them, what's your socialization like? So there's doctors that will prescribe fruit and vegetable prescriptions, where you need to eat more fruits and vegetables, you need to exercise more. now they're also doing that with socialization, because they're recognizing the importance of socialization to make sure that we're, getting out there, interacting with one another, and feeling those positive relationships. All right, so now that we know the 3 areas of social wellness, let's look at some positive ways to implement these concepts in our lives so that we can get out there and be more socially well. Talked about support groups. Support groups can help when things are going really well, and they can also help when they're not going so well. Many support groups exist, such as health support groups, family, or activities. I know I just said to my daughter-in-law the other day, we were at a shower together, and she's having her second child, and I was saying to her and a friend, when I was young, we had play groups for the kids, and that was great for the kids, but it was really good for the moms because we got an opportunity to just set that quality time aside, and we developed relationships that 30 years later, 30 plus years later, we are still really good friends. And we can count on each other, and we know each other, even though we don't even live near each other anymore. So it's a great way. Like, that was a support group for me as a mom, that we organize. So sometimes you might have to organize things yourself if you find yourself in a certain situation, but it's always good to have those groups to help support you. If you need assistance with something that's specialized to your social wellness, then look for groups through families and friends, doctors, worship groups. They might all be able to help you find that support system you need. And again, I mentioned already, it doesn't have to be this very formal thing. It could be a book club, it could be card games, it could be sitting down with friends and playing cards or learning a new game together. Fitness groups is another great way. I know I have a group of friends that they get together every morning and walk, and that is their exercise and their socialization. So again, it overlaps with their physical dimension of wellness, but they also have that social, and then they're friends outside of that area too, from that relationship that's built. Check social media pages. Sometimes the social media will have groups together, like mommy groups or things like that. And then if you can expand beyond social media to actually have it in person, that would help to support even more of your social wellness. The library. Here we are, Ocean City Library. They're great. There's great wellness opportunity or socialization opportunities here. So check out what the libraries have for you. Newspapers offer, a lot of times they'll have a section where they are listing different social groups out. But just look for where you would like to socialize in a support group. The important part of a support group is that it gives you the social support you crave, so that you have a positive experience. So that's how you look for it. If it gets negative or something that's not for you, then maybe you have to, reevaluate, because remember, we're going to keep looking at our social dimensions, reevaluate, and find something that is positive. Healthy relationships that are positive support our social wellness too. And it's really important to nurture your personal relationships, both in the community, friends and family, to make sure that you're supported. So just as you'd set aside time for your doctor's appointment or work function, set aside that time for family. If close friends or family, if you like to socialize and they're far away, then set a time aside to do a video call or a FaceTime with them, something where you can interact and see them and have that time set aside. My youngest son currently lives in Florida. He's moving to Arizona, and I know it's going to be even harder for us to have social time with him. So, I've already said we have to make this a point, set that time aside that we can physically check in with one another, because it's really hard when you live, and it's great that we can have extended family and friends across the country and world now, but you also want to make time to check in with them. So if you haven't seen somebody, make time to reach out to them. Try to set time up with those friends that we talked about that you have over the lifespan. Maybe check in with them and just say, hey, how you doing? Maybe every Tuesday you check in at 4:00 with a friend that you grew up with, just to see how they're doing and get that emotional and social support from them that you crave. Think of creative ways to spend time together too, doing things that you enjoy to support that social wellness. And then finally, feeling a part of something or having a sense of community can really give us a sense of belonging. This provides us with social wellness, and it helps to support the other dimensions of wellness. I know when I was young, we moved from one town to the other, and my mother had a really good social connection with the town we left. And then the town we moved to, she never got that same connection and she never enjoyed it. So I think it's really important, if you do leave us an area and you had a good, strong social connection, try to figure out how you might connect with that community as you move on, or stay in close contact with the one that you've left. We've moved around a couple times, and when I move, I try to find a group. I did scrapbooking. I made friends from scrapbooking one time. When I moved to Ocean City, there was the adult crew team. I started doing that. That was a trip because I was not coordinated enough to do it, but I got out there and did it, and I got to know people and make friends. So just think about, like, you look for those groups that we mentioned where you can find them, and try to find places to interact that way. All right, keys to new people. So supporting our social wellness means connecting with people that have similar interests to your own. And if you move to a new area, like I said, look for those online groups or a newspaper or library. There's lots of resources out there. Look for people that share interests like yours, or find something that maybe you've never tried before, but you think is really interesting to try, like you've always wanted to do. I said that in intellectual wellness, I think, in high school and college, or, when we went through school, we were told what we had to study, but now we have the opportunity to do whatever we want. I just got an email yesterday. I know at ACCC, they're starting to do TED Talks, like micro TED Talks down there. So you could go and listen to a TED Talk, and then maybe find, again, the person next to you that's like, wow, that was great. I really like that. And start up a social opportunity that way. If you are feeling very isolated where you currently live, then look for new things to try that maybe you've always wanted to do, but you just never took the opportunity. You can join clubs, talks, lectures, like I just mentioned, maybe participate in a challenge, or maybe join a hiking group or a walking group. Find ways to connect with people who have similar interests, and that will help bring more social wellness, and also create new friendships for you. I know I have a friend, and her grandson moved to DC, and he was alone. He didn't know anybody. Well, he thought, I'm gonna do something about that. He joined a running group. So now he has a running group, and they come down and use her house in Ocean City, and the whole group comes from DC, and they're all together. So it was just something to start relationships up. So sometimes you have to put yourself out there and, hi, let's be friends. But joining those groups and trying new things can help to introduce those new people. Also, people with different backgrounds help us to expand our minds, our intellectual wellness. They can offer us new perspectives and a better understanding of the world around us. It helps us to stop from not only being socially isolated, but just maybe in our own mind isolated. So try to find social groups, both in person or online, that expand your current social network. Ask at your house of worship what activities may be available there for social interaction, or check local agencies, Cooperative Extension offices for classes that you can attend to participate in. So in addition to the Cooperative Extension classes that I offer, and Annalise offers as Family and Community Health Sciences Department, there's volunteer opportunities at 4-H and youth development. It's not just livestock now. They have all kinds of STEM opportunities. So if you're a former educator or IT person, and you have, you can offer to start up be a volunteer leader and start up with the kids, and then you get to know the kids and the parents. We also have agriculture and natural resources for Cooperative Extension. So we do classes on starting seeds. Like all kinds of fun things around agriculture and information about that. So check out different places like that you can attend a class and participate in something. Try a new hobby or to socialize, and try to meet new folks too. So it's great to socialize with friends and family that you already know and you have a lot in common with, but expanding your social group to new people who have different backgrounds could really help you as an individual. It could make you feel more fulfilled, more socially well, emotionally well, intellectually well, a lot of different areas. We talked about volunteer work already, and that has so many positive attributes. You're giving back, so you feel like you're giving to the community, you're participating in the community, and it provides you with an outlet to offer your talents and provide a sense of belonging for yourself. It really can help you support many dimensions of wellness, and it's a great opportunity to meet new folks with similar or not so similar ideas, and it helps you to contribute while socializing. It is also an important concept in social wellness, and volunteerism is so important overall. But if you haven't worked or you're not working, it's a great place for you to find a sense of community support and friendship during your volunteerism. And I know I used to do a lot of volunteering when the kids were younger, and not just like in their specific areas, but with other kids. Like I did a mentoring on time with some of the kids at the school, and that was such a great opportunity. I met so many great kids, during mentoring. So that's another place to look. If you're retired and, you want to give back to your profession, that's a great way to do it, is go back and mentor and teach those coming up about what your experiences are, because obviously they're very valuable. And then finally, we have social time. So again, I know it's hard to have that busy schedule contain one more thing to catch up with old and new friends, but it's really important to keep track of people and know what's going on with them. When my father passed away, I got a letter from his cousin, and he said, how are your mom and dad doing? I haven't heard from them. So I wrote back right away. My mom's like, you're always so good about keeping in touch with people, but I like to keep in touch with people. I like to know about their lives. I don't do social media, so a lot of times it's a text or a call or a handwritten thing, but try, writing in your calendar how you're going to keep up with people. Who haven't you talked to in a really long time? And, maybe I'll go back and call that person or say hello to that person, see how they're doing. Maybe you see something somewhere that reminds you of that person. Reach out, because you know what? Life's short. Make the time now while you have the opportunity to catch up with an old friend. Make a steady date with a friend. I talked about this already. Maybe meet for brunch, talk on the phone if they're far away or they're unable to get out. And also try to do it monthly, weekly, or even annually. It doesn't have to be, it could be every day, but it doesn't have to be every day. Maybe it's just on birthdays. Maybe it's somebody that you have a birthday buddy with. So you have a close time frame where you're both in the same month or couple weeks or something. Catch up with that birthday buddy and celebrate together so you both enjoy your birthdays. And keep track of when you should be reaching out to socialize. I put everybody's, different people's birth dates on my calendar, and I just will shoot them a quick text. Hey, hope you're having a great day. I have a friend that, God love her, she still goes in and she has, I guess, my whole family's birthday listed out. And every year we get a card from her, each one of us. And I'll tell you what, we're not talking to her, but that's such a nice thing. It like really makes our days. We're always like, oh, we got the card. That's so awesome. So it's just a nice little thing that she does. So, it's a good way to be social from a distance, I guess, right? You want to stay organized, just like everything else it's hard to be organized sometimes, but with the other dimensions of wellness, we talked about organization, environmental wellness. We talk about that a lot, but staying organized by putting events on the calendar, that's a really good way to have social opportunities, because then they're not slipping away. If you say, oh yeah, we're going to connect, it's easy to get away from you. Or well, yeah, let's do lunch. We'll put it on the calendar, make an organized effort to make sure that happens. Do things that you like to do, like going to concerts. A lot of times if there's a concert, we have great opportunities here in Cape May County. If there's a concert, text that friend that you haven't been with for a while and say, hey, I'd really like to go check this concert out. You want to come with me? Grab a beach chair. We'll go sit on the beach and listen to it, right? Take friends to bingo. I have a lot of friends that are younger than I, and they go out, they got a group of girls and they all go to bingo all the time. So it's a really fun opportunity for them. Try to go to a lecture like this or something with friends. Even host your own paint night, go get the canvases and do the paint nights together. Just have something where you can have people over. I used to love the idea, and I never did this, I always wanted to do this, of the rotating dinner where one person has the appetizer, you have the dinner, I have the dessert, and you kind of rotate. I've never done one, I always wanted to do one, but set something like that up just to get things going. Our big thing when the summer months are really nice, we invite people over to sit on the porch. So we just have pizza on the porch, and it's just a nice way to catch up. All right, so I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation that each dimension of wellness can be affected by another one, and they both interact. They interact in positive and negative ways, but they're constantly interacting with each other. And as I said before, social wellness means developing a sense of connection and belonging and having a good support system. And those things we talked about, reaching out to friends, family, being a part of a community, volunteering, they're going to foster that good support system. And that's why it's important. Some examples of how social wellness interacts. I've given you a lot so far already. But social wellness has been shown to support our emotional wellness. Having those safe and supportive relationships create a sense of emotional wellness. Social wellness can also support our occupational wellness because it provides time for us to have work-life balance. If you're sinking yourself totally into occupational wellness, so you're getting things done at work and you're not providing social time, then it's going to be hard to have a work-life balance. So social wellness can help to provide that work-life balance. All right. And once again, here, Brooke, if you want to release that last poll, here is the feedback, and I will email this out as well afterwards. If anybody wants to do the survey, and like I said, there is an opportunity to win a prize on the QR code one. Go ahead. Do you have a question for me?
The last lecture that you had, did you send an email out?
I did. Yes, there was a follow-up email that went out. Be sure if you left your email address that it's really legible. So sometimes it's hard to tell, what the 5 and an S or something like that. And if you didn't sign in today, there is a sign up sheet going around. So I'd really, really appreciate it if you did sign in. So if you don't want to leave your email, that's fine, but I need to have it count for the class. Yeah, and when we do it, we'll put the QR code on there, but we'll also put a link that you can click. So if you're not getting the QR code. All right, I'm going to move on. And if you need me to go back, I'll go back to this just so I get the people online. All right, so to sum up, we talked about social wellness involving community, new people, and social time. And as you probably know throughout the discussion today, each of these areas have some reoccurring themes, like community, kindness, positive relationships. Try to make sure that you think about these things as you're socializing so that, you're treating yourself and others with kindness, and you're creating overall wellness for yourself as well as social wellness for yourself. This is like on a delayed reaction. There we go. All right. So we're going to set some goals up now. And it's always important, when you're trying to set up your own wellness, you want to have goals. As I said in the beginning, we want to make sure we have little goals. We don't want to do a whole lot or too much. So right now I'm going to, you learned about the social dimension of wellness. So I'm going to suggest, based on the definition that we see there on the slide again, developing a sense of connection, belonging, and having a good support system. Think about your social wellness and what you have learned today, and try to think about where you feel like you might be appropriate for you to set a goal. I'm not telling you to set it yet, but just think about your social wellness and what you do based upon some of the suggestions we made today. Don't set the goal yet. Just think about your social wellness and where you think you might need improvement, or you could create more positivity. And as you're thinking about that area of social wellness for yourself, because again, it's an individual area, as you're thinking about that, let's talk about the SMART method. And the SMART method is used a lot to set goals. And SMART stands for specific, measured, attainable, realistic, and timely. So we want to set goals that follow this SMART method to help us out. So in this area, if we're talking about something specific to start a goal, we might say in the area of social wellness, spend more time with my brother John. I don't really have a brother John, but yeah, spend more time with my brother John. A measured goal would reach out to him once a week. An attainable goal would be try calling or setting a time and place to meet the week before. So if we're going to meet up with our brother John, we're going to try to set that up and use that organizational tactic of staying organized, putting it on the calendar. We want to be realistic about that goal. So if John and I can't catch up in person, we're going to video chat. And then we're going to make it timely. I'll start this week and try to keep up with talking to John at least once a week for 6 weeks. And then we'll see if we can check in more often than that. Now, we know that when we try to start a new habit or set a new goal, research tells us that it takes about 6 weeks for that to happen at least. So don't hang up your goals after 3 days and say, oh, well, I didn't do it. Revisit it and go back to it if you need to. So we're going to use the SMART goal method. It was created by George Doran, Arthur Miller, and James Cunningham to see if we can set our goal. And then we're going to try to be more socially active. So now that we understand how to set a goal that you can meet, set one that would help you to achieve the social wellness. I started you out by saying, think about what you'd like to do. After you set that SMART goal for social wellness, revisit the goal. If you're not feeling so well socially, say, hey, I set this goal to do this and I'm not quite making it. Let me reset and try again. And once you have achieved the goal and mastered that goal, then try to go back and set another one in the area of social wellness if you feel like you're still not really balanced and finding that positivity. You want to remember to reevaluate your wellness regularly. So not just social wellness, but all the other dimensions of wellness too. And if you have not attended the other dimensions of wellness class, like I said, I will send out a link to the video. We have a YouTube page. Rutgers Cooperative Extension has a YouTube page with the recordings for all the videos on there, but there's also other recordings for other information. And it'll help you to better understand how to be socially well and how it's interconnected with the other dimensions. And then you can also attend another 8 dimensions of wellness class. So there's advertising for the out front here for October. And then the conclusion is in November, where we'll wrap up and review all 10 of the dimensions. So if you haven't caught them, you can come to that as well. All right. So we have a bunch of really small resources that we used here. Yeah, there's a quiz on that. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, let me go back to this one. The goals. No, just to revisit the goals. All right. So does anybody, I'll take Zoom first. Does anybody on Zoom have any questions for me? All right. I'm hearing none. Anybody in the audience have any more questions? Absolutely. We can go back to QR code. Maybe. Yeah. There we go. There's the QR code. Yeah. I think it, again, I always, think it's important to, showing up's always the hardest part. When I used to teach physical activity classes, I used to say, you're here, you made it, and you all are here. So you're taking a step towards social wellness by being in the room or being on Zoom. So I think that, taking the opportunity, bring friends. I see there's groups here together. That's great. Or, look for other things that you can do socially around. There's a lot of calendars. One thing that I have up on the front table, there's a Walk Cape May County guidebook up there. You're welcome to help yourselves to those. Somebody told me they leave it in their glove box. So if they're out and they want to go for a walk, they'll look for a different trail. That has all the trails throughout Cape May County in there. So grab a friend and go for a walk using one of the great trail systems that we have in the county. Or just, go for a bike ride, different ways to socialize and be involved. Go ahead.
Question.
Sure.
I think it's great advice and everything, fantastic ideas. And I think it's easy for somebody who's like naturally outgoing to do those things. But what about a person who's more introverted?
I agree.
Doesn't feel as confident
Yeah.
in themselves to get out there and do those things.
Right.
So do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, I think, I agree with you. It can be hard. And I think sometimes, in addition to being introverted, I think sometimes it's just hard to put yourself out there sometimes. You know what I mean? You might not feel so comfortable. I think that's a common problem. Probably maybe for some of us that are extroverted as well. I would say small steps. Like, if you have a friend that you feel comfortable with, bring them along to a new experience if you're not, likely to go by yourself. it's always good to have a companion to help you out, through those things. Or maybe I have a friend, and I'm not kidding you. If we formed a line outside the door and we all stood and she was in the line, she'd make friends with everybody in this room. She's just like one of those really extroverted persons that just like loves talking to people, and she'll get your phone number too. Like she'll be in a line at a drugstore and be like, so okay, let me have your phone number. And then she's like, she's wonderful, but not everybody's like that. So I think that just where you're comfortable, because you don't want to, if you're not comfortable, you're not going to want to do it. So find that comfort level. Like, can I bring somebody with me? Or I feel really good in a book club sense. Like I'm a bookworm, so I want to, read, and that's where I can put myself out. So find those areas that maybe instead of starting out right away with like putting yourself out there to new experiences, start where you're more close to home and a little bit more secure with that. Yeah, that's a great question. I love that. Somebody else have a question? And I think that the important thing about wellness is, like I said from the beginning, it's individual. So you want to do things that are going to make you feel well and positive, and where the relationship is secure, and you're, in a good, positive, balanced situation. Sometimes we're not going to all be balanced in all the areas all the time. So you just have to, kind of look at where you are and you're not, so you get to that comfort level. You feel good. All right. I'm going to sign off from the group that's online. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.